Hey, good Wednesday morning, and thanks for checking out the latest long-range forecast here from BAMWX.com. Michael Clark here, wherever you're finding this video. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. We're going to talk about a couple of things. I think the increased wintry pattern overall that's going to grip much of the nation here, just as a direct result really from some tropical forcing and some of what the polar vortex has been doing, but also kind of sifting through some of the model noises and explaining our methods. You know, a lot of people follow what we do on Twitter and things like that, and we post our trend maps, and I'm going to talk about that. I want to kind of explain ourselves to you as we go throughout this process. So what you're seeing right now is our intro slide. That's typical long-range morning analysis sent out in email. We highlight, the things we're watching. What we're looking at is our days 3 to 7 CONUS impactful weather outlook. All right, we see accumulating snowfall potential stretching from the Central Plains to the Ohio Valley into the Northeast, Omaha, Chicago, Cleveland, New York. More snowfall is on the table here, coming off of locations yesterday that 2 days ago that picked up over 30 inches of snow in about a 24 to 36 hour period. So a remarkable snowstorm up there in the Northeast. Even the city of Chicago picked up more single day snowfall in the city 3 days ago than they have for the entire season or in the last 5 years. So we've definitely picked up the intensity in the pattern for snow, and I think that's going to continue. We're noticing certainly an equatorward jet shift, where our jet stream is going to start aiming itself more towards the equator. We're looking at some North Pacific blocking. We've already got the negative NAO and the negative Arctic oscillation. So I really think we're going to be dealing with some pretty intense cold here going forward. And I want to talk about that. But first thing I wanted to show you was just, again, some of the observed snowfall observations from the Northeast snowstorm. You can see where some of these locations were hit really pretty hard. 34.5 inches of snow in northeastern Pennsylvania, east of Scranton there, and northwestern portions of New Jersey, 29, 30 inches of snow. Just a remarkable storm system for those folks out in the Northeast. And I don't think we're done. I don't think we're done with this pattern overall. You can see just in the short term, I'm just going to show you the 72-hour time frame. We have a system that's going to come through Thursday night into Friday, impact eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, Wisconsin, kind of the western Great Lakes region. And then in the next storm system will come Sunday into Monday and possibly add more snow to the mix here across the Ohio Valley. What happens in the Northeast this weekend? I'm not totally sold on the signal for a big storm there right now based on some of the latest model trends, but it's not off the table. It's not off the table. We're going to talk about it, all right? The other thing that's very important that I want to mention is how cold we're going to get with the literally the polar vortex coming down and visiting us here in the U.S. It's going to get incredibly cold. And taking a look at that, looking at the European model with its just apparent temperature here, and it's delayed the arrival of the intense cold just a little bit, but it's still getting incredibly cold, the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley. What it does now is this image here is next Wednesday, is it's still trying to bring this minus 30, minus 40 degree temperature, this feels like temperature into the area, but even into the north and east, you're going to have multiple days of feeling as if you're below zero. A lot of this is going to be weighed on how much snow we put down to in the Ohio Valley over the weekend. That snowpack can certainly enhance or mitigate, if you will, the extreme cold. Now, the pattern coming I want to talk about real quick before we get into the long range, is certainly going to be one favorable for, I think, bigger phased winter storms, especially here in the Ohio Valley and getting into the Mid-Atlantic and into the north and east. I think you're really going to be looking at multiple chances here at accumulating snows. More so than we've seen here in the last 5-6 years across the region. And this is just a look here at the ensemble mean jet forecast at hour 200 on the GEFS, and then even taking it out here to day 14. Still much of the same. I think we could really see not only some clipper systems coming down, but just the jet stream pattern favoring, I think, a mean storm track somewhere along here, and really allowing for this area to probably really cash in on a couple of big storms. All right. When you look at the GFS operational from the overnight run, I mean, it's you don't take this at face value and run with it. You take the general idea. The general idea is what I just talked about. It's a lot of snow right through the central portion of the country. Whether it's right or wrong in terms of specifics for your location, it's not how you should view this map. What you should do is just say, wow, okay, it's showing everybody to get snow in the next 15 days, and a lot of it. Maybe if you even cut these in half, you still lay down a snowpack across 75% of the nation. It's a big deal. It's also wet, all right? It's wet in the east and to the southeast, and when you start throwing in below normal temperatures into that, you're gonna get snow. The ensemble mean is impressive. The ensemble mean is over 6 inches of snow from the Ohio Valley into the interior Northeast, or even the coast too. I don't think those locations are out of the woods for possibly bigger storms still. And again, you can see the ensemble mean for precipitation certainly is wet. Looking at the trends, we look at the trends. People say, you look at you guys say the model trend's warmer, and then but it's still really cold. So what's the point? Well, the point is, a lot of times in forecasting, especially longer term, 5 days, 15 days out, the trend of the model data is more important than the face value of what it puts out. What has the model been doing? Is it developing something that could suggest changes are upon us? It's just important to look at trends. It doesn't mean if the model trends warmer and we say, hey, the model trended warmer, it doesn't mean we think, oh my gosh, it's not going to get cold now and it's going to get really warm. People, A, need to learn to read, and B, need to understand what a trend means versus a face value of a forecast. All right, so when we look at this is the overnight run, the change of the European ensemble. So the warmth that it developed yesterday on 12Z was erased. We had a 9.5 point net gain from 12Z yesterday to 0Z last night in the EPS ensembles for the 15-day period. So we can determine that yesterday's trend was in fact not a trend. It was just a little bit of a fluctuation or a fluke in the model runs. 0Z GFS got much colder in the central U.S., and the 6Z got even colder again in the eastern U.S. and warmed it up back up in here, which is what it should have done. But regardless, week 2 forecast EPS, 0Z GEFS, 06Z GEFS. I like the EPS, but I like the GEFS more for its consistency and for how it's handling the tropical forcing, and that's what I'm going to discuss with you. This is a look at the GWHTD, the heating degree day forecast, just a trend. 2 days ago was the white lines. The magenta lines are yesterday and the red lines are today. And so you can obviously kind of see here look at the trend up in this time frame. We had the white here, then we had the magenta, now we're bringing in the reds, right? So my point is the data, no matter which model you look at, has continued to trend colder in this time frame. And I believe it's because of what's going on with the MJO and where the polar vortex is situated and the blocking. It's kind of a perfect storm. We haven't had a negative NAO since 2009 and 10. It's been over 10 years. For a time, we almost thought it was impossible to get a negative NAO in winter. But it's here, it's there, and it's important. So here's where the MJO was back on the 26th of January, in the evening of the 26th. Really kind of had the focus of it between 150 east and the date line. All right, and here's where it is tonight, or today, the latest. All right, 8 p.m. from last night. And it really hasn't moved. Arguably, it's in the same spot. And even more importantly, the downward motion, all right, the sinking air over the Indian Ocean is more pronounced than really the positive, the upward motion in the VPs over the central and eastern Pacific Ocean. Well, that makes sense because in a phase 7 diagram, we can see that the downward motion is much more pronounced than the upward motion further east along the date line into the Pacific. So that's phase 7. We're currently in phase 7, right? Now, what we do believe happens is as this starts to migrate east a little bit, and we see this rising motion, upward motion come back in over Africa, and this entire regime propagates east across the Pacific Ocean, we go into phase 8, just like that. And so you can literally see it. You can literally correlate this. It's 1-to-1. It's really incredible. Since 1990, February MJO phase 7s look like this. Now, this is excluding negative NAOs. All right, so now you toss a negative NAO into the mix, and you get that you mute the southeast warmth. All right, you're warm up in New England, but you have this unbelievably similar look to the current forecast and the MJO phase 7 La Nina analogs. I mean, it's very similar, right? All you do here is just factor in the North Atlantic Oscillation, the Greenland block. There you have it. There's phase 7 next 5 days. I believe we're loading up for a big Arctic blast. Here's the 6 to 10 day. You literally can't make this up. I mean, it's a perfect match almost. You look at where the core of the cold wants to come. You look at the MJO Phase 8 February. That's exactly what's going to happen. And so it's coming. It's coming. That's what I think is going to happen. Now, the question has to become, what do we do with the MJO beyond day 15? Does this cold have any legs? Is it gonna stick around? All right. Here's the 1 to 5, 500 heights, and we're gonna get into that where I just led off to. Here's the 5 to 10, and here's the 10 to 15. Even if I look at day 16 on the GEFS right here, this certain plot right here, you can still see this trough in the east over the top and this ridging down to the south and west. Now that is a very close look, right? It's a very close look to February La Niñas MJO Phase 1 with a positive AAM. Okay, that's rare. That setup has only happened twice since 1980, 1986 and 2017. Right, 86, it had a stretch of days where we had a La Nina setting with MJO Phase 1 and a positive angular momentum. And that stuff does matter. It does. This is the look. This is what it looks like. So my point to this is, I do believe the cold, it can hang around. I do. I think it has some legs, if you will, or some durability, if you will. So here's our official week 2. All right, this is the official week 2, 257 HDDs. We're probably rivaling one of the top 5 coldest February weeks in history coming up in week 2. So it's going to be incredibly cold, and even a lot colder than it was in 2020, no doubt about that. But, from Chicago to Dallas, you're -8 to -12 in week 2. That's a big deal in the heating demand department. So certainly is going to matter. Now, what I talked about here with the MJO, and I'm going to wrap it up. Last slide here. This is a look at the GEFS 35-day MJO idea. All right, it's seeing the sinking air kind of propagate east into the Indian Ocean, but it kind of develops this standing wave probably in MJO 8 and 1 as you get further out. I like how it's handling this pulse. So I think its forecast probably makes a lot of sense. And just based on what we know, based on where the PV is situated, I don't have any reason to go against it. So there's your week 2. Now week 3 would look like this. All right. Still plenty cold. Looks a lot like our week 3 and 4 yesterday. There's week 4. Still plenty of cold around and probably still plenty of snow to be had. So plenty of wintry precipitation. You start getting a gradient like this, a thermal gradient, a southeastern warmth a little bit, just a little bit. Then you get this cold Arctic air across the top, and you can get plenty of winter weather. In fact, I haven't even looked at this plot. I'm going to look at it. Here's your 35-day snowfall plot on ensemble mean. All right, it's entertainment purposes, but you can see here, everybody, there's a lot of snow in the forecast, especially up into the north and east. So that's all I have for our analysis today. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.